Hello students, welcome to NEET Wizard. Audio notes for molecular basis of inheritance. In the previous chapter, you have learned the inheritance patterns and the generic basis of such patterns. At the time of Mendel, the nature of those factors regulating the pattern of inheritance was not clear. Over the next 100 years, the nature of the putative genetic material was investigated, culminating in the realization that DNA deoxyribonucleic acid is the genetic material. At least for the majority of organisms, in class 11th you have learned that nucleic acids are polymers of nucleotides. Deoxyribonucleic acid DNA and ribonucleic acid RNA are the two types of nucleic acid found in living systems. DNA acts as the genetic material in most of the organism. RNA through it also acts as a genetic material in some viruses. Mostly function as a messenger. RNA has additional roles as well, as it functions as adapter structure and in some cases as a catalytic molecule. In class 11th you have already learned the structure of nucleotides and the way these monomer units are linked to form nucleic acid polymers. In this chapter, we are going to discuss the structure of DNA, its replication, the process of making RNA from DNA, transcription, the genetic code that determines the sequence of amino acids in proteins, the process of protein synthesis, translations, and elementary basis of their regulations, the determination of complete nucleotide sequence of human genome during last decade has set in a new era of genomics. In the last section, the essential of human genome sequencing and its consequences will also be discussed. Let us begin our discussion by first understanding the structure of the most interesting molecule in the living system, that is the DNA. In subsequent sections we will understand that why it is the most abundant genetic material and what its relationship is with RNA. The DNA is a long polymer of deoxyribonucleotides. The length of DNA is usually defined as number of nucleotides or a pair of nucleotide referred to as base pairs present in it. These also is the characteristics of an organism. For example, a bacteriophage known as 5174 has 5386 nucleotides. Bacteriophage lambda has 48,502 base pairs. Escherichia coli has 4.6 into 10 raised to the power 6 base pair, and haploid content of human DNA is 3.3 into 10 raised to the power 9 base pair. Let us discuss the structure of such a long polymer. Structure of polynucleotide chain. Let us recapitulate the chemical structure of polynucleotide chain DNA or RNA. A nucleotide has three components: a nitrogenous base, a pentose sugar, ribose in a case of RNA, and deoxyribose for DNA, and a phosphate group. There are two types of nitrogenous bases: purines, adenine and guanine, and pyrimidines, cytosine, uracil, and thymine. Cytosine is common for both DNA and RNA, and thymine is present in DNA. Uracil is present in RNA at the place of thymine. A nitrogenous base is linked to the pentose sugar through a N-glycosidic linkage to form a nucleoside. Such a adenosine or deoxyadenosine, guanosine or deoxyguanosine, cytidine and deoxycytidine, and uridine in deoxythymidine. When a phosphate group is linked to fifth OH of a nucleoside through phosphoester linkage. A corresponding nucleotide or deoxynucleotide, depending upon the type of sugar present, is formed. Two nucleotides are linked through 3 to 5 phosphodiester linkage to form a dinucleotide. More nucleotides can be joined in such a manner to form a polynucleotide chain. A polymer thus formed has at one end a free phosphate moiety at fifth end of ribose sugar, which is referred to as the fifth end of polynucleotide chain. Similarly, at the other end of the polymer, the ribose has a free 3OH group, which is referred to as third end of polynucleotide chain. The backbone in a polynucleotide chain is formed due to sugar and phosphate. The nitrogenous bases linked to sugar moiety project from the backbone. In RNA, every nucleotide residue has an additional OH group present at the second position in the ribose. Also, in RNA, the uracil is found at the place of thymine, 5-methyl uracil, another chemical name for thymine. DNA as an acidic substance present in nucleus was first identified by Frederick Mister in 1869. He named it as nuclein. However, due to technical limitation in isolating such a long polymer intact, the elucidation of structure of DNA remained elusive for a very long period of time. It was only in 1953 that James Watson and Francis Crick, based on the X-ray diffraction data produced by the Maurice Wilkins and Rosalind Franklin, proposed a very simple but famous double helix model for the structure of DNA. One of the hallmarks of their propositions was base pairing between the two strands of polynucleotide chains. However, these propositions was also based on the observation of Erwin Chargaff that for a double-stranded DNA, the ratios between adenine and thymine and guanine and cytosine are constant and equals 1. The base pairing confirms a very unique property to the polynucleotide chains. They are said to be complementary to each other, and therefore if the sequence of bases in one strand is known, then the sequence in other strands can be predicted. Also, if each strand from a DNA, let us call it a parental DNA, acts as a template for synthesis of new strand, the two double-stranded DNA, let us call them as a daughter DNA, thus produced would be identical to the parental DNA molecule. Because of this, the genetic implications of the structure of DNA become very clear. The salient features of the double helix structures of DNA are as follows. It is made of two polynucleotide chains where the backbone is constituted by the sugar phosphate and the bases project inside. The two chains have antiparallel polarity. It means if one chain has the polarity 5 to 3, the other has 3 to 5. The bases in two strands are paired through hydrogen bond, forming base pairs. Adenine forms two hydrogen bonds with thymine from opposite strand and vice versa. Similarly, guanine is bonded with cytosine with 3 hydrogen bonded. As a result, always a purine comes opposite to the pyrimidine. This generates approximately uniformly distance between the two strands of the helix. The two chains are coiled in a right-handed fashion. The pitch of the helix is 3.4 nanometer in 1 billionth of a meter, that is 3 raised to the power minus 9 m, and there are roughly 10 base pair in each turn. Consequently, the distance between a base pair in a helix is approximately equal to 0.34 nanometer. The plane of one base pair stacks over the other in double helix. These, in addition to hydrogen bonds, confirms stability of the helical structure. The propositions of a double helix structure for DNA and its simplicity in explaining the genetic implications become revolutionary. Very soon, Francis Crick proposed the central dogma in molecular biology, which states that the genetic information flows from DNA to RNA and RNA to protein. In some viruses, the flow of information is in reverse direction, that is from RNA to DNA. Packaging of DNA helix. Taken the distance between two consecutive base pairs as 0.34 nanometer, if the length of DNA double helix in a typical mammalian cell is calculated simply by multiplying the total number of base pair with distance between two consecutive base pairs, that is 6.6 into 10 raised to the power 9 base pair into 0.34 into 10 raised to the power minus 9 base pair, it comes out to be approximately 2.2 meters. A length that is far greater than the dimensions of a typical nucleus, approximately 10 raised to the power minus 9. If the length of Escherichia coli DNA is 1.36 can you calculate the number of base pairs in Escherichia coli? In prokaryotes such as Escherichia coli, they do not have defined nucleus. The DNA is not scattered throughout the cell. DNA being negatively charged is held with some proteins that have positive charges in a region termed as nucleoid. The DNA in nucleoid is organized in large loops held by proteins. In eukaryotes, this organization is much more complex. There is a set of positively charged basic proteins called histones. A protein acquires charge depending upon the abundance of amino acids residues with charged side chains. Histones are rich in the basic amino acids residue lysines and arginines. Both the amino acids residues carry positive charges in their side chains. Histones are organized to form a unit of at molecule called a histone octamer. The negatively charged DNA is wrapped around the positively charged histone octamer to form a structure called a nucleosome. A typical nucleosome contains 200 base pairs of DNA helix. Nucleosomes constitute the repeating unit of a structure in nucleus called chromatin. Thread-like stain-colored bodies seen in nucleus, the nucleosomes in chromatin are seen as beads on string structure when viewed under electron microscope. Theoretically, how many such beads nucleosomes do you imagine are present in a mammalian cell? The beads on string structure in chromatin is packaged to form chromatin fibers that are further coiled and condensed at metaphase stage of cell division to form chromosomes. The packaging of chromatin at higher level requires additional set of proteins that collectively are referred to as non-histone chromosomal and HC proteins. In a typical nucleus, some regions of chromatin are loosely packed and stain slight and are referred to as euchromatin. The chromatin that is more densely packed and stains dark are called heterochromatin. Euchromatin is said to be transcriptionally active chromatin, whereas heterochromatin is inactive. The search for genetic material. Even though the discovery of nuclein by Mixture and the propositions for principles of inheritance by Mendel were almost at the same time, but that the DNA acts as a genetic material took long to be discovered, and proven by 1926 the quest to determine the mechanism for genetic inheritance had reached the molecular level. Previous discoveries by Gregor Mendel, Walter Sutton, Thomas Hunt Morgan, and numerous other scientists had narrowed the search to the chromosomes located in the nucleus of the most cell. But the questions of what molecule was actually the genetic material had not been answered. Transforming principle. In the year 1928, Frederick Griffith, in a series of experiments with Streptococcus pneumoniae, bacterium responsible for pneumonia, witnessed a miraculous transformation in the bacteria. During the course of his experiment, a living organism bacteria had changed in physical form. When Streptococcus pneumoniae bacteria are grown on a culture plate, some produce smooth shiny colonies as while others produce rough colonies are. This is because the S strain bacteria have a mucus polysaccharide coat while R strain does not. Mice infected with the S strain virulent die from pneumonia infection, but the mice infected with the R strain do not develop pneumonia. Griffith was able to kill bacteria by hitting them. He observed that heat-killed S strain bacteria injected into mice did not kill them. When he injected a mixture of heat-killed S and live R bacteria, the mice died. Moreover, he recorded living S bacteria from the dead mice. He concluded that the R strain bacteria and somehow been transformed by the heat-killed S strain bacteria. Some transforming principle transferred from the heat-killed S strain bacteria, some transforming principles transferred from the heat-killed S strain had enabled the R strain to synthesize a smooth polysaccharide coat and become virulent. These must be due to the transfer of the genetic material. However, the biochemical nature of genetic material was not defined from his experiments. Biochemical characterization of transforming principle. Prior to the work of Oswald Avery, Colin MacLeod, and Maclean McCarthy, 1930-44, genetic material was thought to be a protein. The work to determine the biochemical nature of transforming principle in Griffith's experiment. They purified biochemicals, protein, DNA, RNA, etc. from the heat-killed S cells to see which ones could transform live R cells into S cells. They discovered that DNA alone from S bacteria caused R bacteria to become transformed. They also discovered that protein digesting enzymes, proteases, and RNA digesting enzymes, RNases, did not affect transformation, so the transforming substances was not a protein or RNA. Digestion with DNAs did inhibit transformation, suggesting that the DNA caused the transformation. They concluded that DNA is the hereditary material, but not all biologists were convinced. The genetic material is DNA. The unequivocal proof that DNA is the genetic material came from the experiments of Alfred Hershey and Max Chase in the year 1952. They worked with viruses that infect bacteria called bacteriophages. The bacteriophage attaches to the bacteria and its genetic material then enters the bacterial cell. The bacterial cell treats the viral genetic material as if it was its own and subsequently manufactures more virus particles. Hershey and Chase worked to discover whether it was protein or DNA from the viruses that entered the bacteria. They grew some viruses on a medium that contained radioactive phosphorus and some others on medium that contained radioactive sulfur viruses. Grown in the presence of radioactive phosphorus contain radioactive DNA but not radioactive protein because DNA contains phosphorus but proteins does not. Similarly, viruses grown on radioactive sulfur contain radioactive protein but not radioactive DNA because DNA does not contain sulfur. Radioactive phages were allowed to attach to E. coli bacteria. Then, as infections proceeded, the viral coats were removed from the bacteria by agitating them in a blender. The virus particles were separated from the bacteria by spinning them in a centrifuge. Bacteria which was infected with viruses that had radioactive DNA were radioactive, indicating that DNA was the material that passed from the virus to the bacteria. Bacteria that were infected with viruses that had radioactive proteins were not radioactive. This indicates that proteins did not enter the bacteria from the viruses. DNA is therefore the genetic material that is passed from virus to bacteria. Properties of genetic material DNA versus RNA. From the foregoing discussion, it is clear that the debate between proteins versus DNA as the genetic material was unequivocally resolved from the Hershey-Chase experiment. It became an established fact that it is DNA that acts as genetic material. However, it subsequently became clear that in some viruses, RNA is the genetic material. For example, tobacco, mosaic viruses, QB bacteriophage, etc. Answer to some of the questions such as why DNA is the predominant genetic material whereas RNA performs the dynamic functions of messenger and adapter has to be found from the differences between chemical structures of the two nucleic acid molecules. It should be able to generate its replication. It should chemically and structurally be stable. It should provide the scope for slow changes mutation that are required for evolution. It should be able to express itself in the form of Mendelian characters. If one examines each requirement one by one because of rule of base pairing and complementary, both the nucleic acid, DNA and RNA have the ability to direct their duplications. The other molecules in the living system such as proteins fail to fulfill first criteria itself. The genetic material should be stable enough not to change with different stages of life cycle, age or with change in physiology of the organism. Stability as one of the properties of genetic material was very evident in Griffith transforming principle itself. That hit which killed evidence in the Griffith transforming principle at least did not destroy some of the properties of genetic material. These now can easily be explained in light of the DNA that the two strands being complementary if separated by heating come together when appropriate conditions are provided. Further, second OH group present at every nucleotide in RNA is a reactive group and makes RNA labile and easily degradable. RNA is also now known to be catalytic, hence reactive. Therefore, DNA chemically is less reactive and structurally more stable when compared to RNA. Therefore, among the two nucleic acids, the DNA is a better genetic material. In fact, the presence of thymine at the place of uracil also confirms additionally stability to DNA. Detailed discussion about this requires understanding of the process of repair in DNA, and you will study this process in higher classes. Both DNA and RNA are able to mutate. In fact, RNA being unstable mutate at a faster rate. Consequently, viruses having RNA genome and having shorter lifespan mutate and evolve faster. RNA can directly code for the synthesis of proteins, hence can easily express the characters. DNA, however, is dependent on RNA for synthesis of proteins. The protein synthesizing machinery has evolved around RNA. The above discussion indicate that both RNA and DNA can function as the genetic material. But DNA being more stable is preferred for storage of genetic information. For the transmission of genetic information, RNA is better. RNA world. From foregoing discussion, an immediate question becomes evident: which is the first genetic material? It shall be discussed in detail in the chapter on chemical evolution, but briefly we shall highlight some of the facts and points. RNA was the first genetic material. There is now enough evidence to suggest that essential life processes such as metabolism, translation, splicing, etc. evolved around RNA. RNA used to act as a genetic material as well as a catalyst. There are some important biochemical reactions in living systems that are catalyzed by RNA catalyst and not by protein enzymes. But RNA, being a catalyst, was reactive and hence unstable. Therefore, DNA has evolved from RNA with chemical modifications that make it more stable. DNA being double stranded and having complementary strand further resists changes by evolving a process of repair. Replication. While proposing the double helical structure of DNA, Watson and Crick had immediately proposed a scheme for replication of DNA to quote their original statement that is as follows. It has not escaped our notice that the specific pairing we have postulated immediately suggests a possible copying mechanism for the genetic material. Watson and Crick in the year 1953. The scheme suggested that the two strands would separate and act as a template for the synthesis of new complementary strands. After the completion of replication, each DNA molecules would have one parental and one newly synthesized strand. This scheme was termed as the semi-conservative DNA replication. The experimental proof. It is now proven that DNA replicates semi-conservatively. It was shown first in Escherichia coli and subsequently in higher organisms such as plants and human cells. Matthew Michelson and Franklin Stoltz performed the following experiment in the year 1958. They grew E. coli in a medium containing 15NH4Cl. 15N is the heavy isotope of nitrogen. As the only nitrogen source for many generations, the result was that 15 nitrogen was incorporated into newly synthesized DNA as well as other nitrogen containing compounds. These heavy DNA molecule could be distinguished from the normal DNA by centrifugation in a cesium chloride density gradient. Please note that 15 nitrogen is not a radioactive isotope and it can be separated from 14 and only based on densities. Then they transferred the cells into a medium with normal 14NH4Cl and took samples at various definite time intervals at the cells, multiplied and extracted the DNA that remained as double-stranded helix. The various samples were separated independently on cesium chloride gradients to measure the densities of DNA. Thus, the DNA that was extracted from the culture one generations after the transfer from 15N to 14N medium, that is after 20 minutes. E. coli divides in 20 minutes had a hybrid or intermediate density. DNA extracted from the culture after another generations, that is after 40 minutes, second generation, was composed of equal amounts of these hybrid DNA and of light DNA. Very similar experiments involving use of radioactive thymidine to detect distribution of newly synthesized DNA in the chromosomes was performed on Visia faba beans by Taylor and colleagues in year 1958. The experiments proved that the DNA in chromosomes also replicates semi-conservatively. The machinery and the enzymes. In living cells such as E. coli, the process of replication requires a set of catalyst enzymes. The main enzymes is referred to as DNA-dependent DNA polymerase, since it uses a DNA template to catalyze the polymerization of deoxynucleotides. These enzymes are highly efficient enzymes as they have to catalyze polymerization of a large number of nucleotides in a very short time. E. coli that has only 4.6 into 10 raised to the power 6 base pair, compare it with human whose diploid content is 6.6 into 10 raised to the power 9 base pair, completes the process of replication within 38 minutes. That means the average rate of polymerization has to be approximately 2000 base pair per second. Not only do these polymerases have to be fast, but they also have to catalyze the reaction with a high degree of accuracy. Any mistake during replication would result into mutation Furthermore, energetically replication is a very expensive process. Deoxyribonucleoside triphosphates serve dual purposes in addition to acting as substrates. They provide energy for polymerization reactions. The two terminal phosphates in a deoxynucleoside triphosphates are high energy phosphates, same as in case of ATP. In addition to DNA-dependent DNA polymerases, many additional enzymes are required to complete the process of replication with a high degree of accuracy. For long DNA molecules, since two strands of DNA cannot be separated in its entire length due to very high energy requirement, the replication occurs within a small opening of DNA helix referred to as replication fork. The DNA-dependent DNA polymerases catalyze polymerization only in one direction, that is 5 to 3. This creates some additional complications at the replicating fork. Consequently, on one strand the template with polarity 3 to 5. The replication is continuous, while on the other the template with polarity 5 to 3 it is discontinuous. The discontinuously synthesized fragments are later joined by the enzyme DNA ligase. The DNA polymerases on their own cannot initiate the process of replication. Also, the replication does not initiate randomly at any place in DNA. There is a definite region in Escherichia coli DNA where the replication originates. Such regions are termed as origin of replication. It is because of the requirement of the origin of replication that a piece of DNA, if needed to be propagated during recombinant DNA procedures, requires a vector. The vectors provided the origin of replication. Further, not every detail of replication is understood well. In eukaryotes, the replication of DNA takes place at each phase of the cell cycle. The replication of DNA and cell division cycle should be highly coordinated. A failure in cell division after DNA replications results into polyploidy, a chromosomal anomaly. You will learn related detailed nature of origin and processes occurring at this site in higher classes. Transcription. The process of copying genetic information from one strand of the DNA into RNA is termed as transcription. Here also the principle of complementarity governs the process of transcription, except the adenosine now forms base pair with uracil instead of thymine. However, unlike in the process of replication, which once set in the total DNA of an organism gets duplicated, in transcription only a segment of DNA and only one of the strands is copied into RNA. The necessities defining the boundaries that would determine the region and the strand of DNA that would be transcribed. Why both the strands are not copied during transcription has the similar answer. First, if both strands act as a template, they would code for RNA molecule with different sequences. Remember, complementary does not mean identical, and in turn, if the code for proteins, the sequence of amino acids in the proteins would be different, hence one segment of the DNA would be coding for two different proteins, and these would complicate the genetic information transfer machinery. Second, the two RNA molecules, if produced simultaneously, would be complementary to each other, hence would form a double-stranded RNA. This would prevent RNA from translated into protein, and the exercise of transcription would become a futile one. Transcription unit. A transcription unit in DNA is defined primarily by the three regions in the DNA: a promoter, the structural gene, a terminator. There is a convention in defining the two strands of the DNA in the structural gene of transcription unit, since the two strands have opposite polarity and the DNA dependent RNA polymerase also catalyze the polymerization in only one direction, that is 5 to 3. The strand that has the polarity 3 to 5 acts as a template and is also referred to as template strand. The DNA strand which has the polarity 5 to 3 and the sequence same as RNA, except thymine at the place of uracil, is displaced during transcription. Strangely, this strand which does not code for anything is referred to as the coding strand. All the references point while defining a transcription unit is made with coding strand. To explain the point, a hypothetical sequence from a transcription unit is represented below. The promoter and terminator flank the structural gene in a transcription unit. The promoter is said to be located towards the fifth and upstream of the structural gene. The reference is made with respect to the polarity of coding strand. It is a DNA sequence that provides binding site for RNA polymerase. and it is the presence of a promoter in a transcription unit that also defines the template and coding strands. By switching its position with terminator, the definition of coding and template strands could be reversed. The terminator is located towards the third and downstream of the coding strand, and it usually defines the end of the process of transcription. There are additional regulatory sequences that may be present further upstreams or downstreams to the promoter. Some of the properties of these sequences shall be discussed while dealing with regulations of gene expression. Transcription unit and the gene. A gene is defined as the functional unit of inheritance. Though there is no ambiguity that the genes are located on DNA, it is difficult to literally define a gene in terms of DNA sequence. The DNA sequence coding for tRNA or rRNA molecule also define a gene. However, by defining a cistron as a segment of DNA coding for a polypeptide, the structural gene in a transcription unit could be said as the monocistronic, mostly in eukaryotes, or polycistronic, mostly in bacteria or prokaryotes. In eukaryotes, the monocistronic structural gene have interrupted coding sequences. The genes in eukaryotes are split. The coding sequences or expressed sequences are defined as exons. Exons are said to be those sequences that appear in mature or processed RNA. The exons are interpreted by introns. Introns or intervening sequences do not appear in mature or processed RNA. The split gene arrangement further complicates the definition of a gene in terms of DNA segments. Inheritance of a character is also affected by promoter and regulatory sequences of a structural gene. Hence, sometimes the regulatory sequences are loosely defined as regulatory genes, even though these sequences do not code for any RNA or protein. Types of RNA and the processes of transcription. In bacteria, there are three major types of RNAs: mRNA, messenger RNA, tRNA, transfer RNA, and rRNA, ribosomal RNA. All three RNAs are needed to synthesize a protein in a cell. The mRNA provides the template, tRNA brings amino acids and reads the genetic code, and rRNA play a structure and catalytic role during translation. There is a single DNA dependent RNA polymerase that catalyzes transcription of all types of RNA in bacteria. RNA polymerase binds to promoter and initiates transcription. Initiation, it uses nucleoside triphosphates as substrates and polymerizes in a template dependent fashion following the rule of complementarity. It somehow also facilitates opening of the helix and continuous elongation. Only a short stretch of RNA remains bound to the enzymes. Once the polymerase reaches the terminator region, the nascent RNA falls, so also the RNA polymerase. These result in termination of transcription. An intervening question is that how is the RNA polymerase able to catalyze all the three steps, which are initiation, elongation, and termination? The RNA polymerase is only capable of catalyzing the process of elongation. It associates transiently with initiation factor and termination factor to initiate the terminate the transcription respectively. Association with these factors alter the specificity of the RNA polymerase to either initiate or terminate. In bacteria, since the mRNA does not require any processing to become active, and also since transcription and translation takes place in the same compartment, there is no separation of cytosol and nucleus in bacteria. Many times the translation can begin much before the mRNA is fully transcribed. Consequently, the transcription and translational can be coupled in bacteria. In eukaryotes, there are two additional complexities. There are at least three RNA polymerases in the nucleus in addition to the RNA polymerase found in the organelles. There is a clear-cut division of labor. The RNA polymerase first transcribes rRNAs 28S, 18S, and 5.8S, whereas the RNA polymerase third is responsible for transcription of tRNA, 5S rRNA, and snRNA, small nuclear RNA. The RNA polymerase second transcribes precursor of mRNA, the heterogeneous nuclear RNA, hnRNA. The second complexity is that the primary transcripts contain both the exons and the introns and are non-functional. Hence, it is subjected to a process called splicing, where the introns are removed and exons are joined in a defined order. hnRNA undergone two additional processing called as capping and tallying. In capping, an unusual nucleotide methyl guanosine triphosphate is added to the fifth end of hnRNA. In telling, adenylate residues 200 to 300 are added at third end and in a template independent manner. It is the fully processed hnRNA, now called mRNA, that is transported out of the nucleus for translation. The significance of such complexities is now beginning to be understood. The split gene arrangements represent probably an ancient features of the genome. The presence of introns is reminiscent of antiquity, and the process of splicing represents the dominance of RNA world in recent timing. The understanding of RNA and RNA dependent process in the living system have assumed more importance. The remaining portion of this chapter will be discussed in the next video. Thank you.